What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
And we got a banger of an episode for you today. We got some phenomenal questions, so thank you for submitting those. If you would like to submit a question for this podcast and have the chance to be featured, all you need to do is message us on Instagram. Our Instagram is @ColossusFit, COLOSSUSFIT. Submit your question over there. But we're going to jump into it with our primary question, and this is an excellent one, so I'm fired up. So the question is, I have tried everything and I have lost a bit of weight, but I cannot actually get lean. I don't understand how people do it. Is it just genetics and is it impossible for me? Help, please. And this was from James. And I totally understand this, James. It's hard seeing some people that just naturally have it easy. They're always lean. They always look good. They always hold some muscle. And maybe you've known them since middle school and you're like, what the heck are they doing that I'm not? Where maybe you feel like you look a little spongy. You're not showing any definition. Maybe you've lost weight before, but you haven't had that lean look, that effect of having tight, lean muscle, body composition, and really just feeling stuck with it. And it is very easy to say, I'm big boned. It's impossible for me. This isn't realistic. But leanness is a metric of your body fat. And we've done this before, and we'll actually go ahead and put this up on the screen. You can see how greatly being at different body fats will change how you look. There's a great chance you're a higher body fat than you think. I see this all the time. We'll do DEXAs with friends. We'll all do different things. Well, it's funny. Me and my friends have always had a joke because we bulked and cut so much. We'd always, like when we go to someone's house, we'd all get on the scale. It's like one of those weird things we did as gym bros, but it's always fun to kind of get these stats. But it's very easy to look like you don't hold much fat, but maybe your fat distribution's all over your body. And perhaps you're 20, 25, 30% body fat. I just made a video on if I was starting at 30% body fat, what I would do. And it's very common for you to actually be holding a lot more than you think, but look a little bit leaner. And if this is the case, it's really going to confuse you because maybe you will lose 5 or 10 pounds and maybe you'll trick your way into that 27, 26% body fat, but that isn't going to be a mover for you to look lean. For you to look lean, to have abs, you do need to be at a relatively low body fat. I would say sub 15% for men, about sub 21% for women as a rough scale. Once again, you can look at the picture if you're looking at the video of this podcast. If you're not, you can just search body fat ranges for men or women and images. There'll be a lot of different images. None of them are exact, but the main thing is you actually do need to get leaner. The second thing is you can be very lean but not look lean if you don't have any muscle mass. That's how you're just going to look skinny. Leanness is kind of tricky because you're going to look leaner if you hold more muscle and you hold less fat. When your muscles are popping, they're bulging, you're naturally going to look lean, you're going to look shredded, you're going to get that dialed in look. And I think where people will get discouraged, like I said, they'll lose that 20 pounds and perhaps they're not doing it in the best way. Maybe they're losing 5 pounds a week for 4 weeks. They're starving themselves. They're on some weird diet where you get 3 grains of rice and you get 4 at 4 p.m. every day. Something weird like that. And then they have 1 protein shake at night. And it's just not something that actually is going to help them maintain that muscle. And by dieting so severely, doing a crash diet, they're going to lose a lot of their muscle. It's going to end up to you looking worse. And that's why this process of losing fat intelligently, maintaining muscle, gaining muscle, it is a little nuanced, and that's why we talk about it so much. And instead of boring you with this for the next 30 minutes or 40 minutes, maybe it's boring, maybe it's not. We have made episodes in the past, but Kyle actually made an entire ebook totally free. So I just want to direct you there because I assure you by implementing this ebook, it's our free fat loss ebook. It's just the first link above. We just wanted to give back and to really just give a clear resource because we know it's very easy for us to talk about hypotheticals here and if this, then that. But instead with this is a step-by-step guide to ensure you lose fat, maintain muscle, and do it in the right way, as well as use the high-level systems to make sure you're doing this to where you actually look lean and you can actually get towards that goal. But if I had to tidy this up past getting that free fat loss ebook, I would really just recommend challenging yourself to gain more muscle, lifting heavier, being on a great routine, and continuing to diet in a healthy and sustainable way while maximizing protein. That will also help you maintain your muscle, that will help you have more energy, that will help you feel more full. And doing this, it is just a metric of time, and this will greatly contribute to your level of leanness. But very often, you just got to go a little bit further, unfortunately. And it does take quite a bit of work to be lean, and to be exceptionally lean is very hard. That's a whole different story. I wouldn't really recommend that for anyone. I'd say like sub 8% for men. This is where you're shredded everywhere, you're striding. It comes at a big expense of your energy levels, and it isn't very natural. Us holding some fat in our body is important. I really like being between 11 and 13% body fat range on a DEXA DEXA scale. Keep in mind on like any other metric, it would say I'm like 8 or 7, but that's not true. DEXA is a very true gold standard measure of body fat. If you're using the scale in your house, it can be very off. Keep that in mind, but it can be inconsistently consistent towards itself. So I know there's a lot of different things there, but if you're serious about getting lean and losing fat, free fat loss guide, we just want to give that to you. We want to say thank you for being a listener, but that's for me. What do you got, Kyle?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I like that genetics was actually asked here. I don't love excuses, and some people like always say, oh, it's my genetics, I can't do it. But it can definitely be a factor. And I'm sure some of you know some buddies who just, no matter what they do, they're just always like, they will eat absolutely everything and they'll still be super lean. And I guess this is something kind of to ask yourself is like, is it lean or is it skinny? Because even a lot of times, and I like that Josh was talking about this, was like, I would lose weight or I see other people lose weight and they're not exactly lean. They're just like extremely, extremely skinny because they've, because of their metabolism, because of, the way that they are really. And some people are just at a point where they may be an endomorph and it's harder for them to lose weight, but it's easier for them to put on muscle. So sometimes it can definitely have a factor for the initial phase, and it can be propose different challenges. Like, we all know a hard gainer who's trying to gain muscle, who's trying to get bigger, and it's so hard because they have to eat so much food. And then on the other end, some people with some metabolisms, they just need to eat so little, and it's still even hard for them to lose weight. But my biggest answer here and thing for you to consider is going to be just to take a look at your full journey and see what strings need to be pulled. And what's great about this fat loss journey, ebook that I put together is there's a lot of different resources and tips. And for some people, it's, here you're saying that you've tried everything, but it's possible you haven't tried everything for a certain amount of time. It's possible you've tried everything, but, for maybe 2 weeks, or that you've been eating well with your nutrition, but then your workouts aren't as good. So that's where the entire journey, everything has to be in line. Everything has to be functioning together in order for you to see success, right? It's easy to say, hey, I'm sleeping better. I started moving more, but then your nutritional intake, you're not logging accurately and you're overeating. So that's going to force you to not be in a deficit. So what has to happen in order for you to get lean and stay lean is all of these things need to be taken into consideration. Not just one thing, not just two things, but everything consistently for a certain amount of time. And when you go through this guide, you're going to start to see, you're like, oh man, I haven't been strength training as much, or I haven't been pushing my volume or my intensity, or my stress has been killing me at work. So get that guide. It's completely free. It's 33 pages. One day we will charge for it, but for now, just take it as a gift, and hopefully this answer helps.
Awesome. Now we're going to jump into our quotes, and I have one I really like, and this is from my boy Aristotle. We go way back. So it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And this is such a big one because it's so easy to be entrenched in our beliefs, our thoughts, not be willing to challenge them. But I tell you, this is the easiest way to never move forward, to see no progress. And an example of this is carbs are bad. It's easy to believe something because you heard it 100 times, and just to take something at face value and to say, whenever I need to diet, I cut out all carbs, and that's what I need to do. But when you actually look into it and you're like, wow, carbs produce glycogen for my body, and I can actually use that as energy. It can be really anabolic and a surplus for putting on muscle. It can be really efficient for training harder and building more muscle. And you can understand the nuances of it, and perhaps eating excess carbs and nothing else can be bad for you in a surplus because you'll put on fat. But once again, there's truths and some things that aren't true, and you have to look at the full picture of it. And that's why with this podcast, we'll take a topic and we'll dive in from a lot of different angles. And we always like to say it depends, and there's unique situations for each person. If you're someone who's training for a marathon, there'd be nothing wrong with you perhaps eating 600 carbs someday. Perhaps that's what your body needs, as long as you're meeting your other nutritional goals, your protein. But if you're dieting super low for a show, maybe you'll be having a lot less carbs. So case in point, in general, I think it's good to entertain different thoughts, listen to what other people have to say. People will say very outlandish things to me sometimes as fact, and I'll challenge them on it. We'll have a discussion, we'll have a debate, and I'll change their mind, they'll change my mind, or we'll land on, hey, it's okay, we disagree on this, we can still be friends and we can have different thought processes. But I really challenge you, and obviously this is a big benefit of university, is you kind of go in there, college, and they challenge a lot of different things. Like, that's probably the one thing I really got from university, is really just challenging your thinking, expanding your thinking. But even for us, another thing myself and Kyle are big on is perhaps there's someone you don't like in the media, but maybe they say something that really resonates with you. You don't have to hate that truth. Doesn't mean you have to love that person, but sometimes I'll listen to something like an audiobook and I'll be like, I disagree with 70% of this, but I'll be like, oh, I like this little tip or tidbit. And the more you can pull things from different people in life in general, and we've spoken before about even a kid, perhaps a kid isn't someone who is as educated as you, but they can have some very profound insights, right? Like, why don't you just smile more and be happier more? You're like, wow, that really hits. So in general, I think this is a pretty powerful quote, especially as this is the Fit, Healthy, Happy podcast, where we're here to inspire you, educate you, and motivate you. And in terms of education, like for fitness in particular, the more you can look at the newest science, challenge your way of thinking, challenge your way of training, challenge your way of eating, that's how you continually improve.
So another thought that I had just off of Josh's quote, and it's so true, like being able to think for yourself is just so powerful. It's something that I've had to actively work on years over years to just get better at, to kind of think for myself, make those decisions. But even like social media, sometimes it can be one of the coolest places ever, but those comment sections, like they can really force you to think a certain type of way. Like even myself, sometimes I'll look at a video and I'm like, oh, this is the coolest, cutest thing ever, or whatever, some dog's doing something. And then just like in the comments, just like everybody's just ruthless. Like they'll start to potentially force you to think a specific type of way, because every single top comment is going to be some sort of negative, like putting down type of thought. So being able to just like kind of not let other things influence you and really be able to think for yourself is so impactful, and something that we've had to do for years as we've just been content creators and coaches, is just like really stay true to what we believe and like be able to take a comment and be like, oh, okay, does this make sense? And like think for ourselves. And it's such a powerful thing to consider there. And it definitely does make a big difference in your overall journey. And so my quote here is simple. It's something that's been on my mind. It's just one day or day one, you decide. So I searched on Google just to see like if anyone, sometimes with quotes, I'll search and see if anyone has any thoughts or, like different meanings and whatnot, because some quotes can mean different things. But simply put, I like this one because, and someone described it basically, the phrase means you can continue with wishful thinking that is never going to get you what you want, or you can start planning and acting to accomplish what you want. And I think there's so many people who will just consistently put something off that they know they want to do, or they actually know that they need to do. And you can decide, like right now, today, as you're listening to this, driving, walking, working out, whatever it is, like, are you going to get started now, or 6 months from now, 1 year from now, is that going to be day one, right? And it's so easy to just put things off. And I know a ton of people who just really wish that today was their day one. They wish they started sooner, but unfortunately it's just going to be one day. One day I'm going to go on that trip that I really wanted to do, or one day I'm going to fully commit to my fitness journey. It's no way to think. Like, you can 100% take action now. You just have to commit to yourself. I believe in you, whatever it is that you want to do. I'm such a fan of it. And a lot of the decisions that I make personally is just not wanting to put things off and say, oh, one day I'm going to do it, because you just never know. I mean, it's pretty deep there, but I just think that it's important to do things that you want to now and not put things off.
Yeah, and with that, I guess as we jump into our thoughts, we're really excited. We have been UFC fans for a while. We like watching with all of our buddies, following the different athletes. So we're taking the jump in Vegas. There's a Sphere there. We went to Vegas maybe a year or 2 years ago, I believe. And we saw that Sphere, and it was so cool. It's this big ball that's all a screen, and everywhere you look around you is a screen. And when they announced UFC Vegas, we're like, oh, we got to do this trip. This is going to be amazing. Like, this will be just a really good time, especially with a lot of changes obviously coming in with Kyle with his daughter and all these exciting things. So we're like, we got to jump on this. We got to do this. And obviously it's a little bit uncomfortable, like just booking something, doing something. But like Kyle said, you have today. And I love that quote from Rocky where they say, there is no tomorrow. When he says, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And he says, there is no tomorrow. So that kind of fired me up. But we're really excited. We're heading out for that actually right after we're done filming today, which is going to be an absolute amazing time. So we're excited, and we're going to get some great content. There's some incredible gyms down there. Dragon's Lair, going to document some food. It's always a great time for us to really just be on our media. So if you want to keep up with us, follow us on Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusFit. But we're really excited now to go ahead and jump into our client shout out. Who do you got, Kyle?
So this week we have an updated shout out from Taylor, and she has just been in our journey, in our coaching program for a while now, and just consistently is turning into just another person. I'm so happy to see. And what really inspired this shout out was she actually just posted on her Instagram the other day, just, a transformation and like this little write up that I thought I would share with you as well. She had said, I remember being so happy in the first picture on the left, I could finally find a bathing suit that fit me. This was after dropping my first 30 or so pounds with my coach. I was super proud of myself then, and I'm even more proud of the girl who, no matter how hard it was, started her weight loss journey and kept grinding to get the results she wanted. And so essentially she kind of goes off to saying, losing body fat is hard, training in the gym is hard, eating healthy is hard, not drinking alcohol is hard. And she's just saying how worth it was. And like, it's a never ending process, right? Like even just for her, it would have been so easy to accept like, hey, I've lost my first 30 pounds. Like obviously we talk a lot about celebrating and rewarding and all that great stuff, but I love the fact that she's consistently showed up for herself, and that's what will separate someone like Taylor from someone who just won't see that long-term change because she's just kept going. She's consistently invested in herself. Every one of our challenges that we've done, she's just been a part of, and that's just such an amazing thing to see because now she's, I think, about over 100 pounds down in her overall journey, and it's possible. Like no matter where you're at right now, even if you're sitting there, you're not sure what to do, it's day one or potentially going to be day one for you and you're looking at the scale, you're looking at yourself and you're like, man, I have so much to lose. Or even if you don't have so much to lose, like even if it's 10, 15 pounds and you're just not sure what to do or how to do it, you have what it takes. And, there's so many resources out there like that we even provide. You can simply message us on Instagram. We're happy to give you some tips, advice. We're always going to respond to you. We have that free fat loss guide on our page, Colossus Fitness, which you guys will be following if you're not already. We're constantly posting free content and just willing to help you out. And of course, if you're looking for that accountability, that support, just simply reach out, say the words, we're happy to help, and we can get you that one-on-one support that you need. But anyways, so proud of Taylor. Just going to keep getting better and better. And we're super pumped about this transformation.
Yeah, Taylor is crushing it. And by challenging those beliefs and saying, I can lose this fat and then I can build this muscle, I can become this super fit person and just an example to all those around me while having a job, while having friendships, while just living a busy lifestyle. Like that's what it's all about. And perhaps it's quite daunting going from being that person who is really overweight and seeing that future, but take it one bite at a time and you'll get there before you know it. But for our next question, we have, what tips do you have for this fall season? I feel like it's a great time and a bad time all at once.
I feel like it gets a lot easier. Summertime is just so wild. Like there are so many variables, as I'm sure a lot of you have been experiencing. Just with the change in season, I feel like things just settle down a little bit, right? But at the same time, this is a great point. Like it can definitely be challenging with that change. For me personally, I really like switching a lot. So I try to maintain the same habits that I had in summer because obviously there's lots of movement. It's easier to go on, we have unlimited amount of sports that we do, and it's nice outside, so you naturally start walking a lot more. So I try to take those movement habits that I had in summer and transfer that over into fall and just experience and try different things that we usually wouldn't do. So even Josh and myself, we've been talking about getting back on the mountain bike. So in the summer, we didn't do as much of it. We did more beach volleyball and other outdoor activities. So switching that over on that typical beach volleyball time, boom, right over into some cardio, which will be awesome to spend time outside. Even we'd like to probably get back into some more rock climbing. And then even just obviously with the change in season as it gets colder, we haven't been using the pickleball at our gym, but that's another great opportunity. And then I know tennis is great in the fall. So what I want to get you thinking about more so is those habits and like the movement side of things, because although it is easy to be like, oh, it's getting colder. Even someone said to me the other day, he wasn't, it's not very cold here, but you can start to see in the morning, it's a little bit colder. He's like, oh, it's so much harder to get out for a walk. I'm like, dude, just bundle up. Like you don't need to, it's not a big deal. Just put on some extra layers and you're totally fine. And he's like, that's true. And I'm like, sometimes you just have to think a different way, even though it may seem a little bit obvious. Like honestly, fall is a great time to go for walks. It's actually one of my favorites. And then nutritionally, even I know a lot of people like to lean into different recipes and try different fun fall foods. We have so many different resources. Even on Instagram this past week, we posted one of Lauren's 35 plus gram of protein recipes for one of her snacks, which I thought was awesome. So I think it's just a great time to buckle in. Like I think if you can lean into that motivation and, it's not too dark, it's not too cold, like fall is a great time as things settle down, like you can do some incredible things, like make so much progress, especially going into the holiday season where I know things will truly be getting challenging. So that's my thoughts within fall, and hopefully you make the most of it. And I'm sure Josh has a lot too.
Yeah, Kyle crushed that one. My biggest advice would be adaptable. So summer comes really easy to say, I can't go on walks, it's too hot. And to answer that, you either got to go at night or in the morning, especially if you're in a really hot place like Florida, maybe walking around malls, doing different things like that. Fall comes, it can get too cold, it can be too dark, and maybe you got to switch that timing up. But like any season, you just got to roll with it. Even the winter, you just got to look for these solutions that are out there, bundle up, dress for the occasion, and just don't allow these things to be excuses. Spring, there's a lot of rain. There's nothing wrong with walking with like an umbrella and a raincoat, or spending more time in the gym, doing your cardio at the machines in the gym. I don't know why my mind directly goes to the walks and the cardio side of things, but obviously like the more you can just be adaptable with different things. Maybe there's a snowstorm, maybe you can't go to the gym in the morning, so you do some work in the morning, you go in the afternoon. Like you just got to be flexible with whatever happens, and this applies for fall, this applies for anything else. And I know certain seasons are easier for other people, but I do find fall is an interesting one. And my biggest piece of advice would just be not to get soft on everything. So I do know with fall, obviously you get less time in the sun, so it'll be darker a little bit longer. It can be really easy or tempting to start sleeping in, staying up, to avoid doing the walks in the morning because it's cold, to push off the gym and bundle up and kind of lean into the cozy season with a pumpkin spice latte. But the more you can really just challenge yourself getting soft on these things, the more you can say, hey, how can I lean into them more? How can I have more success? And that's what we designed our challenge around. The first 30 days, eliminating those vices and really pushing to the potential we know we have. And then as we do push into October here, which is going to be awesome, we're going to be working on a growth phase with all of our clients. And challenge has been phenomenal so far. I've been loving it. It's just been causing me to reach a little bit further, whereas I do know a lot of people will just compromise a little bit more. Like I said, they'll just sleep in a little, skip a little bit of time in the gym, walk a little bit less. And as you start cutting those corners, that's where you start to see results really trimming and your potential trimming. So the more you can fight that, and anytime you have that urge to soften up, to become a little weaker, to order in a little extra food instead of cooking, just fight it and say, no, I'm going to get in front of this, because summer bodies are made in the winter. New Year's is going to come up before we know it. Don't put this off. Don't be trying to recover from all this damage. Like now is a really great time to lock into, especially as the craziness and the amazing eventfulness of summer starts to wrap up. So that's what I really encourage here. And it's a great opportunity to be on top of that. And last but not least, do you use drop sets, and should I be using them? So we can get way in the weeds with these. I use all different types of things. I love pyramid sets. I love cluster sets. I love drop sets. I love normal sets. What I would say is like using these can be a great way to inject a lot of volume in a smaller amount of time. Cluster sets are what I've really come to love. So usually that's when you do 3 to 4 sets in one set, one big cluster separated by 10 to 30 second breaks. And the goal here is to fatigue your muscle to get a lot of pump. And this is something I enjoy quite a lot. Drop sets are absolutely phenomenal with a friend. So perhaps I like to think of curls always. Maybe you got 3 10s on each side with an easy bar. You're hammering out 12. You put it down. Whew, you're dead. Kyle comes and he rips the 10s off. I get at it again. I get 6. He rips them off. I get at it again. Then I'm doing the bar for 30. It's a crazy fun way to pump. Negatives of drop sets are it's very hard to be consistent with the amount of volume you're doing. I like to use these as little accents when I'm with friends and whatnot, but in general, I would really encourage you to avoid getting too exotic in your training unless you're in there with a little bit more time, having a little bit more fun. It's just very hard to program this in consistently. So that's where I don't use them a ton, but a drop set is essentially you start with a heavier weight, drop that load so you can continue to do that volume with very micro breaks. But that's my thought on it. These are all different tools. I just find the more exotic you get and the less you go away from just good, solid training, really learning the basics, really learning how to push to your potential and really be in that RAR 1 or 2 or 8 out of 10 difficulty. Those are my thoughts. What are yours, Kyle?
Yeah, I feel like when I was a beginner, I used a lot of these things like quite a bit more. And I think I didn't really understand the overall just like how training should be and the intensity and, just like proper just overall programming alone. Like this was many, many years ago. I think I'd always watch like, the Arnold videos, and it definitely can get you like super pumped up when you watch like a video and you just see them just like absolutely crushing it. And even just reading Arnold's encyclopedia, like they talk a lot about that type of stuff, right? So that was like a heavy influence back in the day. But I feel like because for most of the things we do, we're pushing not till failure, but I'd say like around 2 reps in reserve for a lot of things, sometimes even 1 depending on the movement. I don't really feel like it's as necessary to be doing them as much, whereas before I wouldn't be challenging myself as much, but then I would wait until that drop set to just like absolutely destroy myself and then be like, oh, I can't move my arms anymore. I'm already at a point where if I'm doing, let's just say cable curls, for example, I'm really pushing to that like close to failure, or at least trying to, maybe once again 1 rep in reserve. So when it comes down to a drop set, I'm kind of just like, you know what, I'm already pretty fatigued and I feel like I've done what I needed to do. Whereas I'll be honest though, there are some times where I'm just there and I'm like, you know what, I just want to it's more of like, to me, a placebo type thing. When you do a drop set, let's say for tricep pushdown or for whatever it is, like you will just feel like you've done the craziest thing in the world. It may have added a bit of extra volume, although it's not necessary. But if you're just like, you know what, I'm heading out, I just want to get the momentum going and I'm just like, let's make this day great. Just like add one in, especially for something like maybe a quad extension, a tricep push down. What else is there? I like doing them for some sort of curls. Those are fantastic. But I do think it's more of like a, you know what, I just conquered the world and like the pump is crazy. I can't move anything, versus like doing a whole lot for you. But that's just my personal viewpoint on that as well.
Well, yeah, we want to thank you for tuning in today and really just appreciate you as always being a listener. If we get a lot of questions, hey, how can I help you guys? The best thing you can do, and I think in general how most people find podcasts, I know a lot through Reels, but it's through recommendations from a friend. So if you love this episode, you love what we do, and you want to support me and Kyle, like me and Kyle literally do backflips. We get so excited when people just share it to your story and you'll say, hey, I like this podcast because like I've always said, if you have 10 followers, 100 followers, 100,000 followers, anyone who you can help push towards fitness, health, and happiness is phenomenal. And it really just means a lot to see that directed towards us. We love to reshare those as well. So when you do it, please tag us in our Instagram at ColosssusFit, COLOSSUSFIT. But that would mean the world if you want to help us out. We want to help you out. Free fat loss guide. Kyle spent a ton of time getting this done, paid a professional designer. And like you said, we probably will charge for it in the future, but right now is your chance to get it free. Don't miss out on that. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one. Peace out.